knowing Christopher Nolan's films, knowing like who he is, knowing his signatures, this was not at all the film I had imagined. I mean, it just like, it just felt like weird to me, and not really, and kind of like, and so like even though I didn't like it as much as Inception or the Dark Knight films, I found it hard to feel disappointed because I felt like wow, he pushed himself out of his comfort zone. I mean, like this is and here's another thing I want to ask you guys, like this has such a different feel, different rhythm than his other films, like usually he's like cutting all over the place, and like it's very fragmented, it's very quick, and it's like all his movies tend to be kind of crime movies of one shape or another. This was like a bit like smoother, a bit more like sustained. Like he wasn't even though he was jumping from space to Earth, like it wasn't as hectic.
No,
as
definitely.
Batman.
It definitely felt like the next logical step. It's like, oh, here's a video from your daughter. She finally filmed a video. Let's cut back to Earth and see what's going on there.
Right.
It worked, and it's like, oh, we'll just go right from there.
Yes, I agree. That is true. What was the question?
Oh yeah.
Well, did you think it was smoother than other Nolan films?
And
the jumps didn't feel like, and cut to this.
It was less adrenaline charge, is what I'm thinking.
It's more. A lot of his films are more definitely cerebral, or about ideas and explaining them. Like literally, the weapon in Inception is an idea.
Yes.
So this is more like the emotion and the trying to have faith in science and exploration and in humanity. And so it's a different idea. That kind of stuff gets lip service in other movies. Why did I say movies? But it's played up here.
Yeah.
Like the human drama is a much bigger thing here than in his other movies.
And it's a different feel, I think, like kind of like going with the idea of the human drama, like usually the acting style, especially in his recent films, is like very, very heightened. Like like you have Tom Hardy doing this like really over the top voice in The Dark Knight Rises, and Marion Cotillard like in Inception and The Dark Knight Rises as well, gave this very kind of theatrical performance. And this is different. Like you've got like Matthew McConaughey who's just kind of like at ease, and it's like, I'm playing Matthew McConaughey, and it's like, and so it's, and like even like Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Wes Bentley. These are more like low key performers than like Tom Hardy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Heath Ledger. It seemed like that was maybe like there to bring like the more like human, the more like relaxed energy of the characters out.
I had inappropriate laughing on the ice planet when it just pans away and it's Matthew McConaughey and Matt Damon wrestling in their space.
That was nice.
I was like, you're sitting there. I was like, oh, this is not laughing.
You can imagine like a
thank heavens their
Shatner,
spacesuits are different colors.
Who's winning? When it made me laugh, I was like, oh.
One of those pictures should have been ripped.
Did anyone view TARS as an homage to 2001?
Yes, it is.
I would not be surprised.
Sort of waiting for the moment for him to actually take over, but I didn't think that it was that kind of movie.
It was like a friendly version.
I thought that was kind of an allusion to the.
Who did the voice of TARS?
Bill Irwin.
Bill Irwin?
Yeah.
All right. So his voice sounded familiar, and I couldn't figure out who or why.
I read on IMDb that that's Chris Nolan hired Matthew McConaughey because he had an everyman quality to him, which I think is accurate, but at the same time, right now, Matthew McConaughey doesn't really have that. He's the guy who says weird things in a southern accent.
He's the guy in that weird Lincoln commercial.
Those and True Detective, like those have become his big things.
Well, but even in True Detective, he kind of seems like an average person. Just like you're like, oh, look at that normal person walking down the street, and then you talk to him, you're like, oh, he's a freak.
That was a flat circle.
Oh, this is not okay. Why did I ask him for the time?
I was thinking about the casting, and I was my favorite part of the movie is actually the Matt Damon part. I mean, I love almost everything Matt Damon does except Good Will Hunting, but That's another story. that's a very like deep personal hate. So I don't want to get into.
We're not gonna open that can of worms.
Let's not.
But, so like I thought, God, Matt Damon was so great in that tiny role. I started thinking of like what if he had played Cooper? Like what if he'd been the star? And then I realized it wouldn't have worked. Like you needed to have like kind of a weird hero and like contrasted with like a more like straight-laced villain, I think. Like which is kind of interesting because it's kind of the opposite of The Dark Knight.
I think what made Matt Damon's casting interesting is that we usually, or I don't know about everybody else, but I usually think of Matt Damon as kind of a likable person.
Absolutely.
In this one, he's completely
You're like, oh, God.
He's evil.
It confused me because I saw him and I'm like, you're gonna go space crazy, and then it's like, oh wait, you're played by Matt Damon. I don't know how to feel about you. Oh wait, you don't look as young as in your other movies. Maybe that helps.
It was an interesting twist because when he emerges, you're bringing that baggage with you, but then it turns it on its head.
I know. You're like, oh, it's
yeah.
just someone who's very lonely. You're like, oh no, it's space crazy. You're like, oh, it all makes sense now. In retrospect.
It was such a. I thought it fit so well in with the themes of the movie because you've got. I mean, you've got these ideas of like sacrifice and selflessness, for the good of humanity, and it was so interesting to like see a character who says, no, I'm just gonna look out for myself, like I'm gonna kill you now, and in a way, like
It's like, I'm going home.
yeah, and like it's fascinating because was he really that different from Cooper? I mean, Cooper was thinking about his children more than the planet itself, I would argue. So it's like there's some shades of gray there.
Yeah.
I think there's some ambiguity.
Speaking of which, I got into a little debate with the guy I watched it with. When he pulled the airlock, would you view that as manic desperation or suicide? It's not clear.
Wait, so
I saw it as manic desperation.
Manic desperation is how I read
You
it.
could argue that it was also suicide.
It could have been suicide.
Where it was.
Because he's a
if
scientist.
this
He
doesn't,
knows what's going to happen.
if this doesn't
Oh,
work, I might as well be dead.
Yes, because he knows that those guys are behind him on his tail.
Yeah.
that's
So
interesting.
he had nowhere to go. He hit a wall, so kill himself.
I know, but you don't think he'd be monologuing if he was just about to do something terrible.
You
Well,
would
he
just
be
be
monologuing. He's a Chris Nolan
It's a
character.
split-second decision.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I read it as like he's like, I gotta do it. Well, I mean, maybe that is suicide. It's like I either do this or I'm dead, and it's just he's like, I'm just gonna
But
maybe this will work. Like I feel like I've been in that moment. Like, well, maybe this will work. I've never blown up, but I mean,
see, the ambiguity of the scene is what I like about the screenplay.
Yeah.
You can tell they put a lot of thought into this film.
They did,
it's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
The work is definitely the quality of work is definitely apparent. You're not like, oh, wow, they just kind of stumbled into this. Like, no, they've really tried to make this a great movie, and it is a good movie. I really liked it.
I want to go back to what you were saying earlier about the time slippage when they were going off to the first planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what you were saying, but
I was saying with 4 scientists on board, how come they didn't figure out, oh wait,
right.
this has actually been playing for
Yeah.
several years.
Well, they didn't know how big the black hole was,
Mhm.
and how
Well,
extreme the time shift.
But
was.
they knew, they're like, well, every hour down there is going to be like 7 years.
Right, but they
In
knew
defense of
once
the-
they arrived.
Yeah.
In defense of the script, they were calculating all of this on the fly, and
Yeah.
they were acting really fast and in desperation. So it kind of proves the fact that scientists can be wrong.
Yeah.
And
And
also,
like I said, it's
too,
just like, oh, why didn't we think of that? I was like, yeah, why didn't 4 of us think of that?
well, I thought too it was interesting, like
Or the
like,
robot.
yeah, like these aren't like I thought it was intriguing that these weren't astronauts, like who, were the best of humanity.
Mhm.
Like I mean, like
They're
these.
like the last hope.
Yeah, they were literally all that was left because like we see that this is a world where like people are willing to delude themselves, and so you've got this kind of guy piloting the mission, who's never been in space before, and like I thought there were a lot of like decisions in the movie where like that they made, and I thought, oh, that's really stupid, and then it's kind of like, well, no kidding, they have no experience.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
they've never done
It's
this.
stupid, but it
before.
makes sense at the same time.
Yeah.
I really liked the part, because I'm a sap, where Anne Hathaway is talking about love and how there's no real scientific
I wanna get into that
explanation.
topic.
Yeah.
And like, I know.
We gotta get into
Well,
that.
and I like, I just like, she goes, yeah, that is part of my reasoning, and I have no explanation for it, and isn't that, she's like, it's unexplainable. I'm like, alright, like, at least she admits that she's kind of making it out of, like, she is biased, and I was like, and then she's like, well, I would like to see you make the same decision when it comes to your children. It's like,
Yeah.
and I was like, but I did like, it's like, ultimately that was the right place to go, and I was like, maybe there's something there, I don't really know. I liked that moment. Even though it would have been silly for some.
It was, I found it to be effective because, like, it was so interesting to see Cooper, like, be really cold, and he's like he must know what she's going through, because of, his relationship with his children.
At least in some part.
Yeah, but, he says, no, we're gonna do this my way, and another selfish moment in the face of annihilation, which I think sets up so well the moment when he sacrifices himself to save her. At the end, like that was that sort of completed the character arc. I think, Although of course he doesn't die, he flies into the magic bookshelf. But we'll get to that later. Patrick, sorry.
No. I just like the way they treated the idea of love in this film. They treated it as an actual legit dimension and not just a bunch of sappy scenes to sell tickets to teenage girls.
Yeah.
And in terms of science fiction movies, I can't recall one where they really explored the concept of gravity as a dimension that can go through time and space, and they mix that with love as well, gravity and love, and those were the two main elements in this plot, and I really enjoyed that. And it treated it seriously, and it was done in this huge scale, blockbuster scale.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that.